Hey everybody, welcome back to Cookie Gaming. Today we are playing more Pentiment. Last time we visited the Abbey to check out their book collection. Found a couple of interesting texts, including one that was relevant to our investigation 7 years ago. We returned to town, had a bit of an awkward meal with Klaus where we did finally apologize. Now as the town is getting ready for their festival, the abbot has asked to eat with us, which I'm not really looking forward to. We're not really on great terms, but we'll have to go and see what exactly he wants. So let's head back over to the Abbey. I'd much rather be in town helping prep for the festival. Though, I don't know if Andreas would really lend that much of a hand anyway. But we have to go back to the Abbey. There's a lot of tension between the abbot and Otto, which I sort of wonder if that's what the abbot wants to talk to us about. Oh. Hello, Killian. Just checking in at the inn, seeing if there's anything different here. Doesn't look like it. Who is this Samuel fellow? We still have not found out. You know, the abbot isn't entirely happy about some of the festival preparations, or at least the festival plans. And of course, Otto, he's got his whole thing going on with this. Well, it's not a rebellion yet, but it looks like it's shaping up to be a rebellion. So, a tense moment generally, and this day is tense in particular. So we'll see what the abbot has to say. Like I said, I think he may want us to intervene in the current issues he's having with the peasants. I can't imagine he wants us here to have a casual conversation with us, given how much we don't get along. So it's pretty clear to me that he wants something from us. I guess we're gonna go meet with the abbot at his house. Alright. Let's head outside then. Although, I mean, I was also surprised the abbot asked us to come back to check out the books. But I guess they had a reason for it, which is they needed to sell off some of those books. Alright. There he is, Gurno. Let's talk to him. God bless you, Andreas. Glad to see you receive my invitation. Are you ready to eat? Yes? Good. Andreas, thank you for coming to dinner. Let's be cordial. I will admit I was surprised to receive your invitation, Father, but I'm pleased to come. Yes, well, when I heard you'd returned to tossing, the Lord convicted my heart to let bygones be bygones. Yeah, I very much doubt that, Gurno. I'm not saying you're not a man of faith, but I'm pretty sure you have worldly motivations. I think it's high time we reconciled, Master Mahler. Please sit, and we will pray together. Bless us, O Lord, in these your gifts, which we're about to receive from your bounty. Lord, direct each of us here towards your wisdom, prudence, and guidance in our future actions. Through Christ our Lord, amen. Amen. Right. A one-on-one dinner. Brother Woislaw was indeed prompt in delivering my message. I'm surprised you deigned to drop by at all. We can see, we heard earlier from the cooks here that the abbot certainly eats a lot better than even the monks. And my guess is that the monks are probably eating better than a lot of the townsfolks, the peasants in particular. You can see there's quite a feast laid out for the two of us here. You've done quite well for yourself, after all. It's good to see that your time at Kearsall was not squandered. You even look the part of the famous artist now. What have you been doing in recent years after leaving such a mess and tossing? Well, you know, I thought we were trying to move on. I spent much of my time painting commissions in France and learning from the other artists there. Yes, busy selling out to the aristocracy, I see. You know, I came in cordial and polite. It's very weird for me to invite me here to dinner and then just go back to the rude attitude you had before. Like, I understand we're on bad terms, but why even bring me here if it's gonna be like this? And also, busy selling out to the aristocracy. Do you know the world that we live in, Gurno? That's what we're all doing. That's what you do. That's what I do. Alright, so I don't want to hear it. Huh. We're both selling out to the aristocracy, frankly, but I guess I'm gonna try and keep it cordial. In part because I'm pretty sure he's gonna ask something of us, and I'm gonna say no. So no point getting into an argument now. Sorbonne, more formally known as the University of Paris, hosts one of the largest libraries in Europe. It's a difficult institution to attend and known for its rigor. Yeah, famous then and famous even today. I spent most of my time in the Sorbonne's library, Father, since I haven't been able to come back here. Well, I hope you've managed to keep your snooping to a minimum there, at least. Oh, okay. You know, I was gonna say, I'm glad Andreas is saying something, because frankly, I was almost tempted to go, look, I don't have to take this from you. Last time I was here, I was a guest of yours at the Abbey. I felt more constrained. At this point, I'm a free and wealthy man. I can say whatever the hell I want, and I don't have to take this. No one else was falsely accused of murder there, so no. Why have you asked me here anyway? In truth, I'd hoped to discuss the rising tensions between the Abbey and the townspeople. Just as I expected. Just as I expected. Gurno, I'm not gonna help yo ass. Unless you... Well, we'll see what he has to say. Unless he's got something very convincing or a very serious threat, which I judge more likely, then I'm not helping you. I'd like to clarify the situation for you, Andreas. Ho ho! God damn. Alright, let's try and... Let's not get too heated yet. Clarify what exactly? I simply want to ensure you understand the circumstances objectively, from all angles. Look, I'm willing to hear your perspective. I'm willing to hear almost anybody's perspective, but that doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you. I believe you've only heard from one side of the issue, Andreas. Otto's little speeches about taxes don't account for the entire situation. Here's what I'm going to say. If you're going to tell me that, oh, the Abbey's going through hard times, we've lost a lot of our funding, in part due to you, Andreas, and so there's not much we can do. I understand that. I am sympathetic to your situation. But that just does not justify the way that you've been treating the peasants and the townspeople. You can give me all the excuses you want. It's not going to make a difference. Now, I'm willing to hear you out. Maybe Gurno's going to give me something seriously shocking, but, I doubt it. Why demand such high taxes then, Father? Wow, what do we have here? Lebkuchen, type of bread, plum pudding, and pheasant. My goodness, we are eating well. Well, let's start with the bread. With the scriptorium closure, the taxes are necessary to make up for the lost income. Uh-huh. I mean... Okay. I already know, I can see a couple steps ahead in this conversation, frankly. I'm gonna say to him, then why'd you close the scriptorium? And he's gonna say, because of what you did years ago, no one wants to lend us financial support. So I don't even think it's worth saying. Surely there's another option. Do you really need to raise taxes that much? Brother Guy has gone over the Abbey's expenses carefully, Andreas. Raising taxes is the best way to cover these costs. Unfortunately, this is sort of the world we're living in. I would not want to condemn Curacao Abbey to fold in on itself, to not exist, but frankly, an institution that needs to keep itself alive by exploiting the local peasants doesn't really deserve to exist anymore. You know what I mean? If the situation is there's only one way this abbey can continue to exist, and it's to exploit the local population, then maybe it shouldn't exist anymore. If there's other ways you can keep it alive, if you could need to downscale a little bit, fine. But if this is really your only option, I'm just being straight up, you know what I mean? Because there's other ways to maybe wriggle out of this, where you could do this, you could do that. If truly that is the only option, then I don't think it's worth it. Now, if you look at the world that we're in, the abbot is not going to be replaced by someone more friendly to the local townspeople or the peasants, so maybe it's not a good option either. I don't know. But certainly the way things are going, it's not tenable, right? It's not sustainable. The peasants are almost up in arms. They're close to being up in arms. But what about prohibiting the peasants from using the forest? That's a new restriction. Go for our pheasant next. The forest belongs to the abbey, and the peasants have no right to use it. Legally, it's theft. Yeah, so there you go. So that is just you being openly antagonistic with no good reason, to be honest with you. And this is where you can't make the argument to me, well, we have no other option. No, you have other options, which are letting the peasants use the forest. Yeah. Ha! He's gonna be so... I'm gonna use the Christian line. He's gonna be so mad at me that I use this against him, but I am. Surely the Lord calls for a spirit of graciousness and charity, Father. Neither is a spirit of theft Christian, Andreas. Otto's been reading from the 12 Articles. As I hear it, the document appeals to the sovereignty God gave all mankind over the earth. The 12 Articles. That drivel is Lutheran propaganda and defies the Church's authority to regulate the sinful and greedy nature of mankind. Oh, very interesting. So we see here a clash of perspectives. I've talked about this many times throughout the series, how these social issues of the time are tied up with the religious issues of the time, right? So this whole Protestant Reformation is leading, or maybe it's not 100% leading to the social issues, but they're definitely connected. As I've mentioned before, Luther actually did not support the peasant uprisings of this era, but a lot of other Protestant reformers did, which is why he's calling it Lutheran propaganda. And you can see the difference between this emerging Protestant perspective that, we shouldn't need to go through the church to access the things that God has granted to us, whether that be scripture or the forest, the earth around us, right? We should have direct access to that as we have direct access to God. Whereas you go for the more traditional Catholic perspective, especially someone who's in the Catholic hierarchy, and he's saying that's drivel. These peasants, the people, must go through the church to access these things, to access salvation, to access scripture, God, and to access the damn forest. We have control of that, right? So you see this perspective clash here. A shameful document for Klaus to print. Look at its effect on the townsfolk. I hear they will continue their disobedience by collecting herbs on St. John's Eve. The whole town knows I've forbidden it. The matter is grave, and I will excommunicate anyone who defies my order. I think Otto's willing to take that. Oh, interesting. I will say, maybe this is just the way I've built my character, or maybe Andreas is always like this. There's no supportive option here, so no version of Andreas supports this. Now, you can be sort of neutral. I'm going to continue to try and use my religious knowledge to argue with him. Father Abbot, you don't have the authority to do that. The townsfolk live under the ecclesiastical jurisdiction of the Prince Bishop of Freising, not you. And this is where, and we see this description here again, good to get a reminder, this is where we've talked about the Holy Roman Empire many times, where religious and secular authority are very much tied up. Andreas, you are hardly an expert on canon law. I assure you, I will have the support of the Prince Bishop. I'll eat my plum pudding. Remaining impartial will be impossible as long as you're in town. Support me in ending this foolish rebellion. Well, I like that we recognize that Andreas is obviously going to get involved. But, just, like, why would I support you? I'm sorry. Why the fuck would I support you? We have never been on good terms, maybe when I first got here 7 years ago, but ever since I got involved in the murder investigation, frankly, ever since you accused Piero, we've been on bad terms. You know, I've disobeyed you several times, you've been pretty horrible to me. Gernot clearly feels I've ruined things for him. It's 7 years later. What reason do I have to help you, really? I don't agree with you ideologically. We don't have a good personal relationship. Like, why would I support you? You have a reputation in town, Andreas. You're a successful man, and the townsfolk believe they are like you. I'd like you to convince the other townsfolk, the printer, for example, that this uprising is not in their best interests. The rest of the town will follow, and the peasants will have no chance to resist. We can end this peacefully. First of all, and I'm not going to do this. Maybe if I did agree, I could convince the townspeople, because we're the main character in a video game. But, look at this realistically. Do y'all really think that Andreas has the ability to convince the townspeople out of taking action? No! We're not involved in this, we just arrived. Maybe people like us. Frankly, we've got a mixed relationship with a lot of the town. Otto's the leader, they trust him. He's been part of the community for years and years and years. There is no shot we could have as much influence as Gernot thinks. But also, I just don't agree to do this. And you have the, by the way, the implicit threat at the end there. We can end this peacefully, right? So, the assumption is, if, you know, we can't end this on his terms, then it's gonna end violently. The peasants have genuine grievances. Why not talk with them and negotiate? I am a forgiving man. No, you're not. But Otto's stubbornness has challenged even me. Gernot, I would love you to tell me, if this was me talking, I would say, how about this? Why don't you tell me what you've agreed to compromise on? Okay? You're making the point Otto's, you know, he's uncompromising. Okay. So what have you agreed to compromise on? Because from where I'm standing, I'm seeing 0 things you've agreed to give in on. If we're talking about a negotiation, then both sides have to give. And Otto, yeah, Otto's probably uncompromising, though I reckon he would agree to some type of negotiation. I don't think you'd agree to any negotiation. You want an unconditional surrender from the peasants. Otto's past the point of talking, Andreas. That's why I'm begging you for help in the matter. Please, take more time to think about it. I apologize. We must conclude for now. Why, like, there was just no shot he thought that I would agree to this. Maybe if we were on much better terms, which I know is possible if we'd acted differently, then maybe. But no way. I'd be interested to play through again and make some different choices. I must excuse myself. I'm expected to lead a service at Compline tonight. Think on what we've discussed, Andreas. I trust you can find your way out. I will, Father Abbot. Good night. I mean, you know, there's just no way I'm gonna help him. I decided to remain somewhat polite, or at least cordial. We don't need to get into, like, a shouting match. But also to make clear that, yeah, there's no way I'm joining in to help you out. There we go. I wonder, are you the abbot's dog or like the abbey's dog? Generally, does the abbey have a dog like that? I'm gonna check in just with somebody just to see if anybody has anything new to say. I guess no one's in here right now. I doubt it. It's worth checking, but you know. I don't necessarily want to run around the entire town every time I have the opportunity. Because usually, if you've already talked to people, you know, they've already had a chance to say their piece. Okay, nobody's even in here right now. Seems like everybody is maybe at that mass that the abbot was talking about. They're not in here either. Alright, well, let's head on out. I'd love to zoom out in here. Let's head back to the town. We gotta make sure that Casper hasn't gotten up to any trouble. Hello, guy. Oh, look at the nighttime sky. Whoa. Maybe I haven't paid enough attention before. I mean, I have said before the art in this game is beautiful. I don't know if this is a new piece of art for the sky or if it's just catching my attention now, but really beautiful art up there. The twinkling stars in the clouds. My goodness. Alright, let's head back into town. Back to our people. Well, that's not entirely true, because Andreas is definitely a different class than most of the townspeople at this point. Not to mention that he literally wrote to nobody over the last 7 years. But still, I definitely like the townspeople more than the abbot. Though, as we've covered, I have no issue with most of the monks. Most of the monks are perfectly pleasant. I mean, there's some exceptions, like Guy. But most of them are perfectly nice, and they're doing what they can. Even the local parish priest, Father Thomas, he seems to be doing good for the community. Maybe that will be challenged in the days to come. But, you know, it's the abbot in particular who's a problem. Attilia. Well, well. You're that artist, the one who lived with the Gertners. Got mixed up in the wonderful killing of that... What is that? Cunt? Or am I misreading that? Runt? What does that say? The Baron. Rats! Oh my god. Whoops. That rat, the Baron. You can see where my brain goes. Yes, Andreas Mahler. I know your damn name. Anyway, no time for talk now, fancy man. Okay. You know, well, I was gonna say I didn't accuse you of anything, but I guess I didn't really have the time to investigate her. Okay, maybe that's unfair, saying to her, like, hey, you should be grateful, but you don't need to be so hostile towards me, Jesus. I've never done anything to you. It's time to call to the fire. Does St. John's Eve mean a lot to you? Saint's Eve, right. Yeah, so we know Attilia is more a fan of the old pagan practices, which is what she's referencing here. That once upon a time, this was a local pagan practice that has been Christianized. Ada Hans Mama Perkta. Right, Perkta, pagan goddess of the Alps. Nurs Ardain Quest Wad Per T. What language is this? Latin? Ve Nus Clementi. Ha ha ha. Well, it can't be Latin, because Andreas knows Latin. Did I hear Perkta in there? So what if you did? Did you become a hound of the Lord during your time away? Come to Tossing to sniff out the heathens and heretics? Never mind. Forget I said anything. Enjoy the evening, Andreas. But if you want my advice, stay out of the woods tonight. Ah ha ha ha. Jesus. Are you trying to be as witch-like as possible? And what Attilia is an example of, and we've seen this with some of the older residents of the town in particular, is the fact that though these lands have been Christianized for a long, long time, there's still many remnants of old pagan practice, many of which are disguised with a Christian sheen, but they're still there. Hey, Casper? Master Andreas, look at how big the bonfire is. The decorations are so fancy. St. John's Eve Festival's a big event for tossing. I missed it the last time I was here. You ever been to a festival like this, Casper? No? I've never seen anything like this. Wow. Can I stay at the bonfire and see the costumes and watch them collect herbs, Master Mahler, please? Oh, dang. Andreas is going to bed. Alright, but follow along and don't get in their way. I'm too tired for the festival. I'm going to bed. Yes, I promise I won't make trouble. I'll see you tomorrow, Master. Dang, Andreas. You're a true old man at this point, eh? Andreas is like, I'm sleepy. I'm going to bed. Okay, we'll see what the other residents of the town have to say. Carl here. Evening, Andreas. Say, how do you like the bonfire? We built it nice this year, big and sturdy. Always the option to be a dickhead. It's a fine setup, Carl. Excellent work. Hey. I know we can't compare to where you come from, but we still give it our all in celebration of the light. Prepares the way for our Lord. I mean, you can see here that the same event can be interpreted differently by different people. Anton, you remember Andreas Mahler, the master artist? Yeah, I've seen him around town. Son, be polite. Hello, Master Mahler. How are you? Well, thank you, young man. Anton's a good boy, let me tell you. A bit of a rascal, as you can see, but he's got a good head and a good heart. Likes to hide it, though. Dad, will you stop? Okay, that's a sweet relationship there. Easy to rally you up, just like your mother. How's Helena? Is she not attending the bonfire? She'll join us later. She went with Martha to dip their toes in the stream and to pick some flowers for the garlands and wreaths. Martha. Oh, okay. It's important to hold traditions. They are pagan customs, but, you know, as we've been talking about, they've been held over time. You're right, especially with the times we're having. Besides, maybe Martha and Helena will come across the blossom of a fern out there. What's so funny about that? Ferns don't flower. That means no power to speak with animals for you, boy. I doubt they'd have anything interesting to say anyway. Ha! Animals can't talk. I'm not a baby, you know. Indeed you are not, even as you're a bit short for your age. Dad. Not a joke. Now let's enjoy the celebrations. Speaking of, what do you think of the festival so far, Anton? It's fine, I guess. I like the fires when they're lit. The mountains get to twinkle like the stars. I don't like when people get drunk and rowdy as the night goes on. They get into fights and all. Oh, anyone in particular? Well, not as much lately, but Martin used to get in trouble. Well, yeah, that's not surprising. But to be fair, Martin seems to have been pretty reliable lately. Anton's got a good eye. Martin's been a solid fellow once he came back, but he sometimes drinks too much. I mean, you know what? Look, I was a little suspicious of Martin, because he was such a shithead when we saw him the first time. He seems to have been totally reformed. And maybe we'll find out that's not true, but at this point it does seem like he's genuinely a better guy. He drinks too much sometimes. You know what? Everyone's got their faults. I'm not gonna blame him for that. He does seem like a pretty good guy generally. He's calmed down lately. You know, he used to be kind of a shit. Yep. Language, boy. God doesn't look kindly on blaspheming. But those are your words, Dad. Bet you don't quote me. Quote the scripture instead. It's better for your soul. You listen to your father, Anton. I will. I do. Jesus. Blaspheming again? Hey, what did I just say? Don't let your mother catch you with that, mouth. That's funny. That's classic dad ripping his son. Also, dad who, tells son not to do something, but obviously doesn't mind. You know what I mean? Like, exactly that situation. I'm sure many of us have had that, where you swear or something, or do something a little naughty in front of your dad, and he's like, don't do that, but you can tell that he sort of approves secretly, or at least he finds it amusing. Well, I'll let you get back to the festivities now. It was a pleasure. Until later, Andreas. Bye. Talking about Martin. Here we have the happy couple. Why, Martin, look who it is. Good evening, Andreas. Andreas, you're staying for the festival, I hope? Of course he's staying. Who would miss this? Especially after you burly boys built such a beautiful bonfire. A burly boy like me would do anything for you, Dove. Couldn't help myself. Stare at them blankly. Jeez, man. Come on, Andreas, be friendly. Brigitte, Martin, you're both feeling very festive, I see. The food, the fires, the dancing, it really is a night to enjoy. It's to honor the anniversary of the birth of the Blessed John, a vigil for he who prepared the way. Yes, and he'd have liked everyone to have a good mood in their hearts and good food in their bellies. As a hermit who wandered in the desert, living off locusts and wild honey, he probably wouldn't agree. I'd like to live off some wild honey myself, if you catch my meaning. So are you gonna heed Otto's call and go into the forest? Nah, I'm really not looking for trouble. There's enough of that going around. I shouldn't say that. Even though you supported him earlier during his speech, he speaks his mind on what's important. But like I've said, I have no personal interest to provoke the abbot. Okay, fair enough. We are God-fearing people, Andreas. Interesting. So maybe... Okay. Now this is an added wrinkle to Martin. So Martin's seems like a reliable guy, but maybe he's more talk than action. You know what I mean? Like, he's willing to back up Otto when it's yapping, but when it comes to action, not so much. Okay, bro, they really want me to insult Martin here. But Father Gurnot's an ass, and he deserves what's coming. Andreas! Don't wish misfortune on others, especially on an enchanted night like this one. We're not happy about the situation, but the celebrations are enough for us. We'll dance until our legs begin to waver. Right, Martin? Would not miss it for the world. Well, that's delightful. Hope you have a great evening. You as well, Andreas. Until later. I mean, look. Not that I've played the most friendly Andreas ever, but I've been pretty polite and nice to people. I'd like to do a run where I'm just picking the worst possible options repeatedly. This absolute asshole run of the game. Yes, we know, Andreas. Hello, Till. Hello, Master Mahler. Evening, Till. Enjoying the festival? Very much so. I perhaps feel a tad old for the more active side of the celebrations, but I enjoy the sights and sounds. Did you know the word for the summer solstice leads back to the Romans? Solstitium. The sun stands still. Such as it looks at this time of year. The sun rises higher for a long time, and then it stays there before falling again. You know, Till's got this really old, fancy handwriting for, I guess, for an old guy. A fitting allegory for the great cosmic arc of mankind, rise and fall. But to make up for that, dancing, leaping, songs, joy, and mirth. Romans also had sacred celebrations for both Juno and Vesta around this time, to gain blessings for marriage and family. Sometimes it seems as if the festivals are made up to cover for what the young folk get up to. That's part of it. I mean, look, these festivals have always been important in human societies. Whether we're talking about the Christian festivals of this time, which have a lot of pagan elements, or the actual pagan festivals of old, the festivals of the Romans, the celebrations of Lupercalia and Saturnalia, you know, all these different religious ceremonies and festivals. They both have some type of meaning to a society, but also it's an opportunity for people to take some time off, to party, get drunk, have a good time. People need that sort of thing. We know there's no stopping them. Not really. Sure couldn't stop me at that age. Young hearts are both fickle and resolute. And don't they just always enjoy the sense of danger? Sometimes that's the best way to learn. Yeah, growing up is a path across mistakes and blunders. It's why I prefer to read more? Tread more? Oh god. Rather than walk on it. Read more, okay. Well, with the Abbey selling books from their library, clearly my cursive is not that great. I hoped I could get some for myself, but it proved to be far too expensive. Blouse and his printing have proven to be of more use and a fair bit cheaper. So, I mean, hey, if we want to talk about the economic side of things, we've already talked plenty in this series about how printing is growing more and more popular, is making books more accessible to regular people. I feel like I've talked more about the vernacular side of that, as in people began printing more in local languages rather than exclusively in Latin. But of course, another part of this is this mass industry of printing presses that made things a lot cheaper than the books you'd get out of the scriptorium, right? And so that makes it more accessible for regular folks. I mean, still, at this time, the early 16th century, your average peasant probably wasn't doing that much reading. They might know how to read a little bit. They probably weren't buying a lot of books, but some townspeople, some more middle-class individuals, even some people with only a little bit of income to spare, they would be more likely to buy a book now than they would have been in the past. And that's a change that will, continue and grow even more prevalent as you head into the 17th and 18th centuries. At this time, early 1500s, the mass printing is still, frankly, in its early stages. And this is a process that will lead to a large percentage of the public reading on the regular in the 17th and particularly the 18th centuries. Your reading public, scientific revolution, enlightenment, all that type of stuff, relies on at least a certain class of people, and a fair amount of them, who are able to read and can afford things like newspapers and printed books. This is sort of the start of that. Does this mean you've read the 12 articles? I have. But that's not a talk to be had on this eve of celebration, Master Mahler. I see your point. Have you maybe come across any interesting tales? I have indeed, Master Mahler. Or, I didn't quite understand everything. The text was in Latin. It was by a Roman named Strabo, and it was about geography. That's why I noticed it. Ah, Andreas is familiar as well. The noted philosopher and historian. He was actually Greek by birth. I imagine you were reading his Geographica. Yes, that could have been it. Of course, I'm not that familiar with the work of Strabo, but I've certainly heard the name. The book was about many kinds of barbarians, which also included the Ratii tribe I read about years ago. The people used to live on this very land before the Romans arrived. He called this place Ratium, and described it as a cluster of daub huts, and its people hostile and warlike, only interested in hunting and fighting. To be fair, that's how the Romans described a lot of foreign peoples, who they referred to exclusively as barbarians. Not that they, Romans did recognize more complexity among these different tribes, and you can learn stuff from reading those sources, but Romans did group everyone non-Roman as a barbarian, and did tend to generalize pretty broadly. There was something about Manus and his sons, but I couldn't understand a lot of it. In any case, when the Romans came, most of these locals were driven out, but some were captured to work in the fields and the mines. What happened to the locals who were forced out? No idea. I'd imagine that after the Romans were driven off, when the empire started falling apart, maybe the barbarians came back. But were they really the same people? Or nomads from elsewhere? The latter. The latter. You know, I mean, even if there was the descendants of those same people, at that point you're essentially talking about different groups of people. In the Roman Empire, I saw a lot of migration. I mean, many times throughout its history. There was several waves of migration, especially near the end. We saw a lot of migration into these areas, the Goths and the Vandals and all these types. Those are some of the more famous examples, but there were a bunch more tribes aside from those ones. I guess we may never know. Thank you for the quick history. I'll let you get back to the festivities. Enjoy yourself tonight, Master Mahler. Until later. Alright, the Gertners. Good evening, Andreas. Nice to see you here. Grandpa, look who it is. Eh? Oh, the artist. You're still around? I thought to stay and enjoy the festivities. You call this a festival? I wish I could, give something to the Gertners. I'm almost certain they would not accept charity. I mean, if we remember 7 years ago, when they asked for rent earlier, you know, the father specifically, you know, he would not have asked for that, right? So, I'm pretty sure he would stridently refuse any charity that was offered. Plus, I'm not sure Andreas is offering, but I wish we could do something to help. You haven't seen nothing yet. You're not gonna tell the story again, are you? You kids need to learn it by heart, else Perkta will run you down. Oh, interesting. The Wild Hunt. In Germanic folklore, the Wild Hunt is a supernatural cavalcade of spirits and fiends which may cause destruction or portend war and other catastrophe, if not adequately appeased. The Wild Hunt is often led by a legendary figure, such as Perkta or the Devil. I have to say, I'm not that familiar with the folklore of this era, but I have heard of the Wild Hunt from the Witcher games. The Witcher 3 in particular. The Wild Hunt is a big part of those games. Now, I think the Wild Hunt of those games likely is inspired by this. A little bit different than I imagine a lot of the old folklore, but that's where I've heard that name before. Ah, this about the Wild Hunt? Yes, it draws near. Heed my warning. Grandpa, you're getting agitated again. It's not good for your health. Nonsense. I can outlive any bastard out there. So, where was I? The Wild Hunt? Yes. Did you bring your Mac? Oh. Whoops. I didn't see what that was supposed to be. I didn't realize I was supposed to bring one. The fools I have to suffer. Masks. Okay, there we go. The masks are to protect us as we banish the witches and spirits into Perkta's path. This is classic pagan stuff, which is, frankly, heretical. But, you know, I'm not gonna call him out on it. She punishes all humans she finds in the woods on St. John's Eve, since only witches are out in the wilderness. Anyone caught will be turned into animals. No one but a priest can then turn you back. So, you see there, that's a very interesting mix of old pagan folklore with a bit of Christianity, right? The priest there would be a Christian priest, though that would not have been the case back in pagan times, of course. Oh no, to be brought low to a mere beastly existence. A grim fate. I'm playing along. Stay indoors tonight. If you want to come outside, stay within the light of St. John's fire. At least St. Satya blesses the herbs in the forest this night, and the women will gather the herbs, regardless of that bastard abbot. It's certainly important to stockpile some for the winter. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons this is so important, the herb collecting, is that it's both a tradition, And also, important for the people. You know what I mean? This is both a real material matter and also a traditional thing. Well, thanks for teaching me about local traditions. Peter's not doing well. Hey, Big York! Huh? You grabbed some of those ashes with you after the bonfires died down. Fine. What are the ashes for? Just to spread across the garden. Ensures a good harvest. Figures you city people don't know shit. Don't be like that, Grandpa. Now that story time is over, how are you enjoying the evening so far, Andreas? I've spoken to a few other people here, very enlightening. It's the best time to spend time with your friends. Have you heard anything interesting? Gossip. You two are like that burner in the forest. Smokey, that's the one. Smokey's still here? Oh, it's nosy about other people. I've also been invited to have dinner with the abbot. Guess the talking never stops. Can't say, oh, we already had the dinner. Can't say I'm exceedingly sure about it, given the animosity between us. The abbot, the bastard can rot for all I care. A thief in a monk's robe, full of hollow words. Maybe you can talk some sense into Father Gurneau. We already actually talked. He's not making it easy for us. It's not like we're asking for much. I'll do what I can. All we can ask. Oh, Peter. I guess I shouldn't keep you then. You have an important meeting to attend. Nope, we already had it. Nope, we already... Whoops. Sorry, I'm doing things out of order. Yes. My bad. Totally out of order, folks. Well, that's fine. Look at that big burning bonfire. We can talk to Burner, who we don't like. Andreas. Salutations, Andreas. Most wonderful to see you here. I see you two have met. What do you want with an inventor? Make all manner of mechanical contraptions filled with gears and levers and other such delights. Andreas here is a man of the mind. Why shouldn't he find interest in my work? For all the use it is. The mind of the inventor exists to create, to build, to go one step further. One step toward the garbage heap. Ha ha. Very inspiring thought, Baltus. Why, I thank you, Master Artist. Speaking of, have you had the chance to look around the town tonight? I imagine the sights could be inspiring to your artistic mind. The tossing certainly looks cheerful with the decorations and bonfire. Indeed, look at their peasant ingenuity. Consider the bonfire itself. It is built to allow the air and the heat to flow through it at great speed, and how it roars. It's a clever piece of construction, but Otto's a clever man. It is a feat almost worthy of a university degree. Is it? Is that what we're handing out degrees for? These people have natural traditions. They've managed to figure out many clever things without even the most cursory education. It is knowledge that hails from preceding generations, lived experience, passed along the chain of time. Not quite the knowledge of a rigorously educated mind, perhaps, but nonetheless useful. I gotta tell you, Baltus, you and Werner have got a very different perspective on this matter. In fact, he views it exactly the opposite. You don't need a university education to be smart. Of course you would say that. Neither of you know these people like I do. Yeah, I'm sure you think that. God has assigned them their place in the order of the world for good reason. Yeah, so Baltus here, his perspective is one pretty unusual for this time period. He's frankly talking like he's from 200 years in the future. Not to say there's no one who thought like him, but not typical. What Werner's just said, that is very typical of the time period, right? I mean, the understanding of the world was a very hierarchical one. Essentially, there was a chain of being all the way from the lowest animal, whoever's at the bottom of the chain, all the way up to the Lord at the top, right? And this is not just a sort of biological chain of being, it's a social chain of being, right? What this means is everyone is born in their proper place. The peasant is born a peasant, the Lord is born a Lord, I mean, you know, whomever we're talking about. And so, that idea was very prevalent at this time, and fits with what Werner is saying, which people believed God assigned them their place in the order of the world for good reason. People were not born into a certain class out of circumstance or chance. No, it was by the will of the Lord, right? And that's why, you know, there should not be social mobility. If you're born in a certain position, you should stay in that position because that has been ordained by the Lord, right? So that was a very common way of viewing the world at this time. There was some merit in learning from the peasants, even you, Werner, given their understanding of herbal remedies. Their traditions are profane. Consider the eve of St. John, tainted by their pagan rituals. It's an affront to Christ. I would argue that, you know, the origin of this are those pagan rituals. Saint Eligius, patron saint of goldsmiths, bishop of Noyon, Tournai, worked tirelessly to convert the pagans of Flanders to Christianity. He warned about this a thousand years ago. Where'd this newfound piety come from? Don't pretend to know anything about me. I've been on the pilgrimage to Aachen. Oh, interesting. I think I've talked about pilgrimages before in this series, and how taking a pilgrimage was really the most popular form of tourism on this era, and that a lot of travelers you would find, you know, if they weren't merchants or, you know, traveling journeymen or whatever, they'd probably be pilgrims. And so, you know, to go on a very long pilgrimage, for example, to the Holy Land, yeah, you'd have to be pretty well off, but if you were someone more middle class, like Werner, or even someone, you know, who's more middling, or working class, well, maybe not if you were a peasant, but someone more middling, you could take a close pilgrimage, and Aachen is a closer pilgrimage site, located at the western edge of the Rhineland. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Aachen. You know, this is one of those issues you have when you read about history, is you read a word like a dozen times, but I don't think I've ever heard someone speak it out loud. So I couldn't tell you how to pronounce it. Ancient city built around thermal baths. It houses the remains of Charlemagne, as well as many other relics. And Charlemagne is really the main draw of that location. I visited the Marian Shrine and stood in the presence of those holy relics. I'm not familiar with this one. An ornate golden reliquary in the Aachen Cathedral. Okay. It holds the swaddling clothes and loincloth of Jesus, the Virgin Mary's dress, and the decapitation cloth of John the Baptist. We've also talked about in this series how these Catholic churches, both then and now, love to maintain collections of relics. If you go to Catholic churches today, it depends on the church, but a lot of churches still have these massive collections. In fact, there's a Catholic church out in Pittsburgh that has one of the biggest collections of relics in the entire world. To be in the presence of St. John the Baptist's beheading cloth, an experience I will never forget. A lot of new terms here. John the Baptist, who we've probably all heard of, prophet and forerunner of Jesus Christ. As his name suggests, he was responsible for baptizing Jesus. He was beheaded at the command of Herod Antipas. I'm glad you've had an experience. Your family must be proud. They are. How much of a conversationalist? Grand! Now I think it's time you return to the festival. We're here to celebrate. I'll let you continue with the evening then. Good night. A very good night. Oh, and do come by my workshop, Master Mahler. I would love to exchange ideas. That'd be my pleasure. Splendid! Until then. Mahler. I'm like trying to decide how much. I'm not really doing voices, but I imagine Baltus here talking in a really goofy, over-exaggerated manner. Alright, Casper. Well, I think we've talked to most people in the center of town. Is Andreas around? I don't think I've seen him. I want to check out the woods. I know we've been told not to do that, but come on, when has Andreas ever followed any type of instructions? This isn't even the right way to the woods, is it? Or maybe it is. We've got a map. I wonder if Father Thomas is around. Or wait, I think he was at the, yeah, he was at the celebration. Now that I think about it, he was there because, unlike the abbot, he is actually a member of the community. And of course, you know, the parish priests of this era depends on the priest, how good they were with the community. Okay? I'll say that much. But Thomas seems to be a good one. Smokey! I checked for you here earlier. And there are many examples of parish priests who, during this time, did actually advocate for their community. Now, there are examples of those who didn't, but, you know, that is the... When you talk about the hierarchy of the church, the parish priest is the person who is most closely connected and aligned with the people, the local community, right? They're at the bottom of the chain, which oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes made them more responsive to the needs of their communities than people a little higher up the hierarchy. Oh, hello, Master Mahler. You're looking well. Thank you, Smokey. How are you? I'm well enough, I guess. Vaxslaw went his way a few years ago, which I suppose was bound to happen. Yeah, I expected that. I miss the company sometimes, but now there's no one to keep me from my gossip. No one to tell it to, either. I'm always partial to a few new tidbits of information. Do tell, Smokey. Ha! Half of the years in tossing will be burning by the end, Master Mahler. And nearly all of them in the Abbey. Oh my. Oh. I did see another Imperial Reichspost courier ride from the Abbey a few days ago. Smokey, you're keeping an eye out, huh? A private mail service run by the Turn und Taxis family and approved by the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, interesting. Brother Guy dropped the bag once. It looked heavy. The Abbey must be doing better than the Abbot's letting on. Oh! This is useful information. Does that happen often? Once or twice a month. Odd with what the Abbot has been saying about the Abbey struggling. Doesn't help that the Abbot has tightened restrictions so close to St. John's Eve, too. The townsfolk get up to all sorts of mischief then. What sorts of mischief? I'd wager Johann and Kat will find some corner to play in again. Kat? Yeah, okay. It's practically tradition at this point. Veronica and Brigitte might go out for a midnight dip by the waterfall, too. I'm pretty sure we saw them during the daytime years ago. They've been swimming out there for years. Yep, I know that. Everyone's getting clever, trying to stay out from the Abbot's eye. Rightly so. He's an ass. I didn't see you in the town commons during Otto's speech. Aren't you standing with the peasants? Well, their cause doesn't really affect me, does it? I'm as worried as anyone about soldiers rushing through here, but the new taxes and restrictions don't bother me. I understand why they're upset, but I've been doing fine out here with less than they have. Yeah, I mean, fair enough, but you must, Smokey, frankly, that's a slightly short-sighted perspective. You live out here in the woods, my man. You gotta worry that restrictions will lead to more restrictions in the future. I think it's pretty possible that you could be kicked out of your home here. I know he's saying, I make do with less than everybody else. But even so, things could get worse for you. You're not at rock bottom. Nothing will change for me if they get their way. I don't know. You can still support them. I don't want to get involved. I'm fine as I am. Supporting them would be the proper Christian thing to do, I guess. But when have any of them done the Christian thing for me? The Christian way is to help without expecting anything in return. It's the giving that counts. Easy for men of means to be benevolent. Yeah, fair enough. All I want is fairness, decency. I've given them my work for years, but they refuse to treat me right. They mock me for my... for what? Blind faith, since I have to keep a constant eye on the kiln for days on end, and can't go to church as often. They laugh at the way I stink. I can't help that, you know. You know what? You're right. You don't owe them shit. Ungrateful bastards is what they are. I mean, look, I agree with the cause, but, you know. He doesn't get treated well. You don't owe them nothing. Oh well, enough of that. Thanks for stopping by, Master Mahler. Till later, Smokey. Until then. Interesting. Alright. Let's see if anything's happening down here. Not by the shrine. Ooh, look at the fireflies, I reckon. The art is really pretty in this game, I have to say. Yeah. We heard they were down here looking for herbs. Andreas Mahler! I never thought I'd see you back here again. I came back to pay my respects to Brother Piero. I'm sorry. I didn't know the man, but I heard others speak well of him. How have you been, Helena? Well, little Martha managed to survive since your last visit, thank God. But lately, not so well. You must know about the taxes we have to deal with. Otto's trying to make the abbot see some sense, but I'm worried he's playing with fire. Carl and Peter and the other farmers support him, but it's dangerous to provoke the Duke. Anton's still too young to get mixed up in all this, and we have Martha to look after now. We know Anton, we talked to him in town, you know, with the, well, told us about you. Carl did at least. Sounds like the peasants can't really survive with the way things are. It's gonna be a hard winter for certain, and that's the thing. I mean, first of all, with how they've been mistreated, they absolutely are justified in standing up for themselves. But also, this is not just a case of principle. Sure, the principle matters too. This is a case of survival. You know what I mean? If these people have a hard winter, it's likely that a lot of them will starve or die from disease. Right? This is not a case of, well, we can hold out for the winter, but we gotta stand up for our beliefs. No, this is survival. If the abbot keeps taking, these people are on a knife's edge. In a way, you know, I mean, I don't tend to do the whole, look at how well things are now, right? Because people always go through hard times. But I'll just say, the people of this time are on a knife's edge in a way that most of us in modern times really can't understand. I mean, there are definitely people around the world who do understand, but I'm just saying, you know, they're on the edge in a way that I do think a lot of us playing this game really just can't comprehend anymore, right? You know, if they get more taken by the abbot, that's life or death, right? So, you know, it's that serious, it really is. But I'd take a skinny husband over a dead one. Unfortunately, the risk is he could be dead either way. I pray nothing happens to him. Now then, I best get back to my work. Until later, Andreas. Till then. See if young Martha has something to say. She does. Hi. Hello. You must be Martha. Who told you? Your mom. Oh. Alright. I'm gonna go. Kids are so funny, man. Nothing else down here? Alright. Well, I think it's time to go to bed, folks. I mean, I'll check my quest list, but, I lost my mouse cursor for a second. Yep. It's interesting. The first... Not the first chapter, because there's been a bunch of chapters. But the first sort of section of the game, you know, back 7 years ago, we were sort of left a little bit open. Like, we were given a bunch of different things to do, and we could decide in what order to do them. I mean, there was a fair amount of linearity, but this time is definitely a little more linear, right? It's just go through each of the quests, which I'm not complaining. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I'm just noting the difference. I'm very much enjoying the game. Don't get me wrong. All right, everyone else has gone to bed. Or actually, we gotta keep checking with Samuel if he's here. I'm really curious about who this fella is. I mean, he looks like he's dressed very elaborately. I mean, a traveling swordsman of some sort, mercenary. I don't know. Maybe we've had a conversation with him. I'm just forgetting, but I feel like we really haven't gotten much from him, to be honest. All right, nighty night. Time to go to sleep. Yes, yes, yes. Let's go to sleep. I wonder if we have any dreams tonight. I'm very curious about Andreas' personal development with his thoughts and, you know, experiences and feelings, which have changed a lot since 7 years ago. Oh, okay. Back to Dreamland. Oh, interesting. We're doing one of these again. I wonder where this is meant to be. Last time we did this was when we were wrapping up, getting ready to go home. Are we gonna be stopped by someone? Oh, I'm just following the path blindly. I need to actually think about where I'm going for a moment. Okay, I actually don't really have to think about where I'm going. Oh, Sabine. Eesh. What is it? Wait. Come home. I know. You know what? You want me home. You've been asking me for months. Oh, dang. So, I mean, we've heard the relationship with the wife is bad. I didn't know in what way it was bad. She's been asking us to come home, and we haven't been. Uh-oh. And for months, you haven't answered. What am I to you now? An annoyance? A bother? A nuisance to be ignored while you lead another life in Paris? Was there ever an ounce of love in your heart for me? Dude, Andreas looks straight up pissed off. Okay, this is one where I don't know, because I don't know the details of the relationship. I kind of don't know how to act. Of course there was. I don't know if that's true. I mean, we haven't seen that. I almost want to say that. I mean, I'm sort of striking out a little bit, but as much as you had for me, you can't help but be cruel, can you? Damn. Let's just say nothing. Fine. Go back to your books, the only things that make you happy. This house is so lonely without him. Stop. Your presence would only amplify the grief. Oh, without him? Who's him? Did they lose a child? Stop! That must be it. Yeah, that's gotta be it. Leave me alone. Leave me alone with the memory of him. Well, that doesn't, maybe it is something else, but it seems to me, because, you know, we haven't really talked about kids. It's really been tiptoed around a little bit. I don't think this has been hinted at, but also it would fit how fucked their relationship is, that maybe they had a kid who passed away, and it sort of ruined their relationship. Or maybe something else. Leave me alone with the memory of him. Stop! Just leave me alone, just for one night. One night where I won't have to dream about him. That's gotta be it, right? And they've responded to it very differently. Please. Thank you. That's my working hypothesis. That's tough. I mean, that definitely helps to explain why Andreas is so bitter now. I mean, there's other reasons, obviously, but if that really did happen, yeah, this has got to be it. August. So we had a kid who passed. Hello, August. What am I supposed to do? Just wait here with you? Suppose I can do that. Just pass the night in silence with you. So that is it. That makes a lot of sense. You know, because I was surprised at how bitter Andreas had become in those 7 years, but you just sort of chalk it up to, well, marriage and life as an artist wasn't everything he expected, which can make someone bitter, and that definitely seems to have been a contributing factor for Andreas. But he's also had this personal tragedy, which seems to have really taken that love away from him, and also seemingly sort of ruined his marriage. That makes a lot of sense. It's tragic. Sorry I couldn't do anything for you. Plague. So tired, August. So he died from the plague. Do you get tired where you are? Dang, that's sad. Last time I saw you, I said goodnight to you. I couldn't come to the bed, so I just stood in the doorway. Just stood in the dark. You didn't say anything back, so I said it again. I don't know how long I stood there. Just waiting for you to say goodnight. You still look the same age to me. I wonder if I'll ever forget your face. I mean, that... Sadly, perhaps. That's sort of the thing you hear, that... You know, these days, I mean, there's a lot of issues with our modern era, but one thing you are blessed to have are photographs and videos of people from all times in life, so you can remember somebody at various moments in their lifetime. But what you hear from older people, or you read in sources or whatever, is that back before you had photographs of people, or even sometimes images of people, after years, you'd start to forget their face, right? I mean, you'd remember them, you might remember some things about them, maybe even their voice would stick with you, or something particular. But you hear people saying, even people they loved, spouses, children, family members, after years and years, siblings, the face starts to fade, right? So that's sad. So I remember your mother as she is. I remember loving her. We gotta add something in there, because this is getting pretty sad. Can you ever picture someone clearly if you love them? You can't picture someone clearly if you love or hate them. In fact, I'd argue you can never picture someone clearly. The picture you have in your head of someone is never going to be accurate to the real person. How can it be? It's always going to be warped and shaped by your feelings and perspective towards that individual. Whether it be love, hate, ignorance, whatever the feeling is. I loved you, little boy. No, you can't. Look. That's how it feels sometimes, right? When you have this love that's led to loss, you feel like sometimes you wish you didn't. But you can't say that. And, you know, you gotta live life. You gotta love when you can. And it will lead to tragedy. We all know that, right? In the end, it always does. But that can't stop you from feeling things. I loved you so much. Sometimes I wish I could die so I wouldn't feel it anymore. But I can't. So I retrace my steps every night. I find my way back to her. Back to you. I love you, August. Good night. Damn. It seems like, I mean, we've never seen the individual Sabine, Andreas' wife. We've only gotten his image of her. From what he's presented, it seems like after this tragedy, he really pulled back. He lost a lot of his love. He retreated into his work. Whereas, it seems like maybe she was looking for some connection, some support. They responded very differently, and it's really put a wedge in between them. I don't know how the relationship was before that, but... And there are definitely other factors that didn't help, but, you know, clearly this tragedy has caused a lot of this. Oh, wow. This is very curious. We're in Andreas' mind palace, and we've seen that, you know, we've only heard from Beatrice, I think. We've heard from none of his other thoughts, thinkers in his head. And now we're back, and this place is in disrepair. What happened to this place? Where's Prester John? And where's Socrates and St. Grobian? Grobian wasn't on the Ship of Fools. Yeah, we haven't heard from any of those guys. Melancholia. Oh, wow. So Andreas's mind has been taken over by melancholy. Won't you answer me? No thoughts for Beatrice? You are Beatrice, aren't you? Oh, this is interesting. Okay. So, that isn't making a lot of sense. So, we haven't had that many thoughts as Andreas. The few times we've had, it's only been Beatrice. Or what we thought was Beatrice. And every time she's piped up, Andreas has been like, shut up. I don't want to hear from you. But what we're seeing now is that Beatrice has taken on the form of melancholy. So what that's telling us is that Andreas has lost all the thoughts and feelings in his head. He's left only with melancholy. Interesting. I once was Beatrice. I was a voice of caution, prudence. And now, more and less than caution, the ache of doubt that stiffens to paralysis. Paralysis that breeds despair. Melancholia. I mean, I want to find out both, but what happened to the others? What happens to you happens to us. The foundations of this city are still moored within the ocean of your mind. This court does not rule your mind rules the court. Once reason, curiosity, and the foolishness of youth dwelt under the aegis of your intellect. I'm all that remains, the melancholy of life's autumn. Yeah. The reason, you know, the humor, all these things, wisdom, they faded from Andreas' mind, and he's left with melancholy. How did it come to this? You've turned your gaze to your own dark center, and he's turned inwards. And when we get those thoughts from Andreas, all he can seem to think about is his own despair, which is understandable, but that certainly doesn't lead to a healthy and happy life. You know the courses of your own life. You know how the choices you've made have brought you here. Well, what am I supposed to do about it now? Change your life. I wonder if I'd acted differently, if this would be different. My guess is no, because it seems to me that these last 7 years of Andreas' life, his career, his marriage, the loss of a child, all that's been out of our hands. So my guess is that even had we made different choices, we would still be here, but maybe I'm wrong. We gotta change our life. Wait, I shouldn't be here. I needed to help someone. Casper all right? Oh, we know who Casper is. Ah, so your thoughts aren't entirely turned inward. Yeah, I mean, earlier, without knowing about all of this, I said of Casper that I sort of see him as a child, so this adds some complexity to that. There is still something in you that cares for others, in spite of your melancholy. Perhaps there's still hope for us. Wake up, Andreas. God damn, middle of the night, huh? St. John's Eve, huh? Find Casper. Uh-oh. Okay, well, I feel like we always leave on a cliffhanger. I'm gonna end it here. The intention was to end with this day and start with the next one, but it's now the depths of night. It's gonna be a spooky start to the next episode. So, what we did today is we talked with the abbot. He tried to convince us to advocate for him. No shot. We got to experience the festival. You know, there was some fun there, but I think it was not maybe so fun for Andreas. And then there was that very telling series of thoughts and dreams there, where we learned what has really happened to Andreas over those years. Why is he like this? It's more than just aging and becoming cynical. He's gone through a real tragedy, which of course is what makes a lot of people cynical and loveless. But, as we saw there, it's not all gone. He does still think of others occasionally. He's not entirely inwards facing. So next time we'll have to find Casper. I'm sure we'll have to deal with Otto and the abbot and all the things that are happening there, the tension, the conflict. It's a tense moment. So if you guys enjoyed this one, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave a like, subscribe, leave your comments. I always enjoy reading your comments. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope you're having a great day today, and I'll see you all again next time. Goodbye.